the October 4th meeting of the Glenville Town Board, please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Tonight for our invocation, I just ask that we take a moment of silence in honor and memory of all the victims of the horrific events that we witnessed in Las Vegas, and please offer your own intentions. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Here. Here. Here.
Here, as I said earlier, we do have some papers up front. You probably all saw the agenda. There are some changes to the agenda. There are two add-ons to the agenda. One is on there already, which would authorize actually the supervisor to enter into an agreement with County Waste for the annual bulk pickup program for 2018. We also have an add-on that will deal with the tax cert with Trustco Bank, which we will add on right after add-on 1. So that comes before new business. And then after new business, we'll be going into an executive session to discuss a personnel matter. And we will leave the room. You can stay here if you like. We do not anticipate any further public business after that. So I wouldn't advise it from that point of view, but you're free to stay. We're going to be in there a while, and there will be no more public business after the executive session. So I think we're all caught up. There are executive summaries of the comprehensive plan. I think quite a few of you are here for that. But just to kind of so everyone understands, there's two things here tonight. There's a public hearing on the comprehensive plan, and there's privilege of the floor. You're free to speak at either. The public hearing, we capture all comments verbatim. The privilege of the floor is a summary of what you say. We do not capture everything verbatim. So if you want to be on the record specific to what you're saying, speak at speak at public hearing. That is a verbatim record. I also, and as we often do, limit comments to 5 minutes on both the privilege of the floor and the public hearing. We have a lot of people signed up and we want to hear everybody, so we're going to ask everybody to try to keep it to 5 minutes. And I will just, after 5 minutes, ask you to summarize if you're still speaking. And that's how we'll run with that. So with that, I'll start with the town council reports. I'll start on the left with Councilman Hennel.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. Just wanted to compliment and thank all of the folks that attended the Glenville Oktoberfest this past weekend. We had a thanking the committee that planned the event, all of the sponsors that helped make the free event, all of our volunteers that actually made it happen, and again, just the sponsors or the attendees. We had a significant crowd on a cloudy day, and also wanted to just again congratulate the couple that actually celebrated their wedding that day in Riverstone and got to come to the event and take a helicopter ride. Thank you.
Well, we can't pass without thanking you for being the co-chair of that event for how many years now?
8 years.
8 years co-chair with Deputy Supervisor McFarland and Heather Peterson, and the work that the three of you do every year is just amazing, and it was a perfect event, and I want to thank you for all your work.
Thank you very much.
And Councilwoman Rudowski.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I just have one item. I attended the Town Chiefs Association meeting last Thursday evening in honor of Fair Prevention Week, which is fast approaching. There are several open houses that are going to be held within the town. Thomas Corners Fire Department is having an open house this Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. East Glenville Fire Department is holding theirs on the 14th, which I believe is Saturday, from 1 to 4 p.m. at their firehouse. And Glenville Hill Fire Department is also having theirs open house on Saturday, 10/14, from 10 to 2 p.m. They're open to any and all community members. Please stop by and support your local fire departments.
Just three of them are doing open house.
Just 3 this year.
Thank you. Councilman Councilman Martin.
I just want to reiterate the thanks and appreciation to the Oktoberfest committee. It was a wonderful event, always is every year. And the food's not bad either, I guess, it must be. But no, seriously, I want to thank everybody for just a fine time for our community.
Thank you, Councilman Pepperoni.
Well, I'll echo that with the Oktoberfest. I was there and was very surprised at the amount of people that attended. And lousy weather, the only day of lousy weather in 2 weeks. It was very chilly and rainy. But I attended the Traffic Safety Board meeting today and heard the residents' concerns about speeding vehicles on Spring Road, Horseman Drive, Heritage Parkway. Some concern about people going through the red light at Freeman's Bridge and Sunnyside. Also, the opportunity to place a radar sign in Outlaws, and also some concern or a request for no left turn sign at O'Rourke Middle School. And each of those were addressed, and letters will be going out with our action on each one of those.
Did they talk at all about the DOT project on that Scotiabank High School and the sign?
Our engineer, Tom Melander, has reached out to the town and village and the school system, as that is an effort between all three entities. And it is on the agenda for the state. So we're looking to make sure that all three places still have the money in their budget. And they're going to get to it when the opportunity arises. But it is still there with the state to be done.
And it got tied up in the state pretty good. It's been a while.
It has been a while, you're right.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the public hearing on the draft town comprehensive plan. I think everybody has seen it's been on the website for quite a while. We have the executive summaries here available. It's been a plan that 3 years in the making, and before we even start, I have to thank and congratulate Councilman Martin for all his hard work and his leadership on this. If it wasn't for Councilman Martin, I don't think this board would have taken up this opportunity. He was a big driver for it, and he did a lot of work on this. And I got to tell you, most towns have to hire people and spend somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 on this project. This town was able to do it, not just with Councilman Martin's leadership, but with all the residents who volunteered. There's a long list of residents who volunteered on this. And a lot of people worked hard on it. We went out to, I think, Kevin, 14 meetings, public meetings on this. There was amendments after amendment after amendment that had come from the residents. And so I want to thank the residents, and I want to thank Councilman Martin for all his hard work. Thanks. Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause. Come on. And with that, we'll open the public hearing to hear all those interested in being heard on the proposed adoption of the 2017 draft Town of Glenville Comprehensive Plan. Who would like to go first? Public hearing is now open. I see hands in the back. Why don't you go? In the maroon sweatshirt?
We're teams, so.
Oh, okay. So for public hearings, we just need name and address for the record, and then you just address the board, please.
I'm Kathy Henry-Starris. I'm a health teacher at Bird Hills Boston Lake High School, and I live in Greenfield Center, 260 Splashville Road.
Hi, I'm Kira Walsh. I'm a senior at Burton Hills Boston Lake High School. I live at 43 Long Creek Drive in Burton Hills.
Hi, I'm Jamie Griffin from Burton Hills Boston Lake High School, and I live on 11 Golden Drive.
Hi, my name is Kara Zanfi. I'm a community educator for Capital District Track Free Communities, and I'm a 21-month-old all the way here.
Where we live matters to our health. In fact, your zip code may be a better predictor of your health than your genetic code. That's why it's important for us to be here tonight as the board plans for what our community looks like in the future, and what kind of environment we're going to create to ensure that our young people will grow up healthy.
The town of Glenville currently has 21 tobacco retailers and 2 vape shops. That may not sound like much, but it's twice as many tobacco retailers as were in the town only 8 years ago. Many of them are near schools, adjacent to our public library and our town parks. In fact, a child is more likely to come across a store that sells tobacco than a library, school, or playground.
That's not good for our kids. The more tobacco use and products that kids see, the more likely they are to smoke. And it makes sense. When tobacco is visible, easily available, and even sold in pharmacies, kids get the message that it's normal.
Tobacco displays in stores are typically 34 square feet of wall space behind the checkout counter. They're huge, but they've become such a part of the day-to-day landscape, and many of these children are walking to school, and what they're seeing affects what they, affects them. So basically, they become such a part of the daily landscape that non-smoking adults don't even notice them, but kids do. They see, they notice, and they remember.
Over 50 students at my high school signed postcards supporting the reduction of tobacco retailers near my school. Did you know that 90% of adult smokers said they started smoking before the age of 18?
And these are the cards, and I'll just pass one around so you guys can just see what we have them sign. This is something else that we have our community members sign. And just one last thing, I urge the town of Glenville to put kids first and incorporate recommendations into the comprehensive plan that will reduce tobacco marketing in our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And, are those, go ahead. Are those signed cards you want to submit for the record? Those cards, they're not signed cards?
Yeah, these are the signed
You can
cards.
give that to the clerk. She'll put it in the record. Who else would like to, yes, sir.
I have a couple maps, so I just want to, so everybody can see what you're looking My name is Mike McHale. I'm the president of the Outlaws Residents Association. I live at 10 Hill Street in Outlaws, New York. So first, I would just like to echo Supervisor Tetzel's comments that it's clear that a lot of effort went into this plan. I think it's quite well done. And we first, as the representative of the ARA, I want to say we appreciate the opportunity to make some comments, and also we want to express our appreciation for all the hard work done by Jim, by the board, by the Comprehensive Plan Committee, the Glenville Residential Advisory Committee, and the Economic Development and Planning Department. There's been a lot, like you said, there's been a lot of changes to the plan. I'm going to focus on one. And stay within my 5 minutes. So in section 3, plan initiatives, which is on page 28, 29 of the full comprehensive plan, in the Mohawk Riverfront subsection, there are 2 bullets under the land use and zoning topic. One is to preserve the character of the hamlet of Outlaws as defined on a map that isn't, it's not listed yet, but it is in there. And I've included that on the back of the handout that I have. By prohibiting incompatible land uses and density. The second bullet is clean up and pursue adaptive reuse of the Mohawk Industrial Park property and surrounding riverfront lands to the southeast of the hamlet of Outlaws. So the map referred to, I believe, is on page 131. And it's the last one, and it defines the hamlet of Outlaws as ending just north of the intersection of Maritime Drive and Mohawk Avenue. this definition specifically excludes the Mohawk Industrial Park, Mohawk Valley Marine, the Rowing Center, and the former Maritime Center. An area that I think most residents of El Plaza would agree is historically has always been considered part of El Plaza. Actually, on page 60 of the comprehensive plan, it states the hamlet of El Plaza along the town's eastern border with Clifton Park, though not known for its commercial appeal, does have a popular marina as well as an aging industrial park. And on page 130, the plan states El Plaza, which marks Glenville's border with the town of Clifton Park, is the home to Mohawk Valley Marine, a number of riverside residences, a former maritime school, and an active rowing club shared by several school districts. Also, to the north, Glenridge Road is typically considered the northern border of the hamlet of El Plaza. So, the map, what our request is that the hamlet of El Plaza, the map be revised to, and I have a map included in your handout, to encompass the 12008 zip code, which is more along the lines of the traditional definition of the hamlet of El Plaza. It includes Mohawk Valley Marine, the industrial park, the rowing center, and the former maritime center. And it also extends to Glenridge Road. So we request that the adoption of this plan be delayed until the map of the hamlet of El Plaza is amended to include the hamlet of El Plaza as defined by the 12008 zip code map, as I said, attached, and as described in the text of the comprehensive plan itself. I included a little bit more in your handout, and I emailed this to Supervisor Ketzel, related to zoning, because it's something you asked us specifically about. That's not something I'm going to read now in the interest of time, but that's something that we could discuss in the future.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard?
My name is Greg Chea. I live at 14 Lee Road, right here in Glenville. I'd like to address, well, as the board probably knows, I represent, at least I'm representing a number of people in the Woodruff Heights neighborhood. And we have been opposed, of course, to a multifamily development in between Woodruff Road and Edmill Road. And there's been a moratorium in place. I think we're in the third extension of that. And then beyond that point, I guess it's not so much that I want to make comments, because I think everything that's, all the goals and the initiatives in the comprehensive plan are laudable, and I agree with them. I just want to know what happens with the moratorium to still prevent until the implementation plan, which is, I'm sure, kind of open-ended. Like, I'll read it, adopt and revise zoning codes that recognize and accommodate the town's existing housing mix. Be judicious in application of zoning map amendments, ensuring preservation of existing residential neighborhoods, and allow multifamily development in both town center and select segments of the Freeman's Bridge corridor. Now, until there are zoning amendments made, I think there's really no enforcement quality to the comprehensive plan. So I'd like to know, and also looking at the fact that the housing goals are number 2 priority, medium priority to implement within 2 to 5 years. Are we going to, in order to continue with a moratorium of those 2 iterations of multi-plan developments, we're going to have to come back and request extension and extension?
And I forgot to mention this, so maybe when you're done speaking, I'll just...
I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. We're not engaging. If you want to take your seat, I'll explain. I meant to explain this earlier. So public hearings are really meant to hear from the residents, not an open dialogue between the board and the residents. And so questions seem to be, rhetorical, I guess, when they're asked, is how we take them and we'll consider them. I can certainly clarify some things. For example, I can tell you, I know this board has already started talking about the next step will be a code and zone review committee that will look at the zoning of the town and the codes, and then begin to implement those changes that the comp plan has guided us to implement. In the case of the moratorium, I think the town board has already pretty much conceded that we've done these moratoriums 3 times now. They've been, so that's about a year and a half, and nobody has spoken against them, so those moratoriums will probably become permanent by way of a code or a zone change fairly quickly, and then they wouldn't need to be extended again. So that's really the intent going forward. After the comp plan, we'll get into code and zone review, and we're talking about a committee right now. But generally, we from the public hearing point of view, the board will make comments after they'll have an opportunity at new business and maybe address some of the questions, but we don't want to get into a back and forth type of thing. But that question seems like I should have addressed that early on, so thank you for bringing it up. There is a next step to this, and that will be the code and zone review. But those moratoriums are pretty much a priority of the board at this point, and I think we'll be moving on to those pretty quickly. That answers the question. Anything else like to be heard at public hearing? Anyone else? It's the yellow hand I see. Oh.
Yellow can.
Oh, your yellow shirt. We just saw yellow.
I'll take that as a,
Let's get a yellow card.
not a racial one. Hope that was getting quoted in the chat. Thank you very much, by the way. Thank you.
My name is Bob Winchester, and I own 2 pieces of property in the town of Glenville, one at 51 Hill Street and one at 330 Outlaws Avenue. And I want to start off by commending the board and Jim and his committees, various committees for the work they've done. It's a daunting task to take something like this on, and I really appreciate the effort put into it. I know I speak for many people when I say that. One thing I don't seem to have much acknowledgement of is the floodplain. Recently, I needed to get a small home equity loan on my house, and they decided that my house, the corner of my house, was in the floodplain. So I went on the FEMA map, and the FEMA map draws the floodplain on the upper side of Bruce Drive. That means that much of the Mohawk Park would be considered to be in the floodplain and underwater in serious flood. I also believe that this plan needs to address just how you deal with building in that floodplain and what happens to the water that gets displaced as it floods. That is, the more you build in the floodplain, the more water that comes down has to find places to go, and essentially raises the level of water. Plus, the more you build and the more asphalt that goes down, it prohibits the water from percolating as fast, so it contributes to flooding that way. And so I think that we need to look at that very, very carefully. I think the FEMA maps are, I think somebody got frustrated and just drew a line. And I can understand that. It's hard to map the whole area, but after the Hurricane Sandy flood, I think we need to pay far more attention, because those floods are not going to decrease. They're going to increase. But again, thank you for the time. Thank you for serving as council members and members of the town board. I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else that should be heard on the public hearing? Going once? Going twice? Oh, I saw a hand before that. All the drama.
Like an auction.
Yes.
Hi,
Hi, how are you? I'm Mike Dalbowski, 5 David Drive. I guess I'd just like to echo the sentiments of all 4 speakers that we've had here tonight. First, obviously with tobacco, certainly I feel like that's important. It's an important thing looking out for our youth. More specifically, as a resident of the Woodruff Heights neighborhood and as somebody who's become rather familiar with what's going on over in Outlaws, I guess what I would like to see in the comprehensive plan is just language that's laid out explicitly that essentially says no multifamily housing in our neighborhoods. That's really what we're talking about here. It's something that this board acted on when they set the moratoriums as far as the Woodruff Heights neighborhood, the Madeline project a couple of years back. And it's something that we're seeing now with what's going on. I think to try and set a definition for what is Outlaws, I know for me, the minute that I take a left off of Maple Avenue into the neighborhood, I feel like I'm in Outlaws. So I think it's a semantic, kind of a semantic argument to say that to say we're going to preserve the character of Outlaws and then enter a definition that almost does the opposite. So those are my thoughts on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hello, I'm Mary Breslin, 11 Mohawk Avenue, Outlaws. I just wanted to address some of what Mr. Winchester addressed as well. Again, just to reiterate, the floodplains and that which is already zoned land conservation, and reiterate that I feel strongly that that property which is land, that is zoned currently land conservation should stay as much, because it's that way for a reason. When we see the repeated flooding across the country, I repeatedly have said in front of this board that I think it's excessively irresponsible for us to consider changing land conservation for the purposes of development, and I stand strongly by that, and I just want to make those statements public. Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing. Going once, going twice, see no hands. Public hearing is now closed. We will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is privilege of the floor. There are quite a few folks signed up for privilege of the floor, so we will ask again that folks stay to the 5-minute limit. And again, state your name and address, whether it's here, at least verbally for the record. And we start with the first person signed up, Norm Hazen.
Supervisor Ketchley and Tom Howard, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Norm Hagen. I live at 779 Taruna Road with my family. I've lived there for 54 of my 57 years. I'm also the owner of Hagen's Hilltop Kennels, a business that we've operated there for over 30 years. I have some concerns over the potential closure of the Lower Taruna Hill, permanent closure. There's a couple situations out there that I've been told, a couple things I would like to address. The first one being that by closing the hill, it would affect no one. This is completely untrue. I use the hill every day, my family uses it, neighbors up and down the road use it every day. People north of us in not only Schenectady County, Montgomery County use this hill, and some people as far as Broad Albany use our road as an access to get down to Route 5 to get to work and shop. So to say that it's not going to affect anybody, it's going to affect a lot of people. It's going to affect my customers, but I'm not going to bring my own personal business into this at this juncture. To bring 911 into this, unfortunately, we've had to call 911 3 times in the last year for my mother, who is 91 years old and lives next door up the road. By closing this road, it would add an additional 13 minutes response time for emergency personnel. So anybody in the emergency response business, adding 13 minutes to get there, 13 minutes back out, they're going to tell you that's an eternity. If the road is closed, if the hill is closed, and Pattersonville Telephone, which owns and maintains a phone line on the hill, if a tree takes that line down, and they can't get to it in a timely fashion, once again, my mother's life alert that she wears, and there are some others that I'm not going to mention names, but they also wear it. Her life alert and the cameras we have set up inside our house would be irrelevant. So every minute is critical. Another thing that I've heard stated out there is that the hill is too steep to be paved. It was paved once, years and years ago. Again, I've lived there a long time. They did it once, and the technology is much better today. It should be able to be done again. And even to compound on that, if NASCAR can pave the Talladega Speedway located in Birmingham, Alabama, which is at 33 degrees, why the hill should not be an issue. We calculated the hill angle with the help of Tom Belander, the town engineer, and it came up to be at 22.5 degrees. Now, of that 0.3 of a mile that's potentially going to be closed, only 145 feet are at that 22.5 degree angle. The rest of the hill is considerably less. I understand, I recently retired from the Town of Glenville Highway Department. The Town of Glenville does not own a paver. They rent a shoulder paver and sometimes borrow the Village of Scotia's. This would have to be done by an independent contractor, same as the other part of the road that was done by Peckham a couple years ago. So nothing against the town employees, I was one of them. I've talked to paving contractors, it can be done. You have to add a little extra caution, a little extra care, it can be done. But ultimately, personally, I don't care. I'm not looking for sidewalks, lights and banners and all of that. Maybe come up and finish fixing the potholes that they started a couple months ago. We get it that it's a hill, it's a seasonal road, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just asking that for the last 70 some years, this road's been open and never had a problem. And now all of a sudden there's potential that it may be closed. So there's a lot of people scratching their heads saying, why? So in conclusion, we're just looking to maybe see if they can finish fixing some potholes. Just, if you want to do a feasibility study in the future to see whether or not it's a possibility, great. We're just asking that you leave it open and just let us continue to use it. That's it. Thank you for your consideration and time this matter.
Thank you, Norm. The next person we have is Mark, is it, I can't tell if it's a G or a C.
Dave Duchesne.
Okay.
I've got some letters for each of the board.
Thank you.
My name's Mark Duchesne. I live at 31 Harmon Road, right here in Glendale. I'm a representative for Pattersonville Telephone Company, and I'm just here to reiterate some of what Norm said. We've got our cable that feeds the upper end of Torino Road going through the section that they're talking about closing. And the telephone company would just like, we're not even looking for a fancy road, just as long as we still have access to our poles and cable in case anything comes down. It's through a wooded section, so trees are going to come down. It's not if, it's when. And it's not feasible to go through and cut 100 feet back either side of the road. Not to mention that people living up there wouldn't be happy with us. But it's just, we just wanted to put our 2 cents in, and we'd like to see the roads kept open. We're fine with being closed during the winter. It's just that the rest of the year, it'd be nice to be able to drive a truck and work on it instead of carrying stuff on your back. So, that's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person is Wendy Carroll. Let me start by thanking you for all your work on the comprehensive.
That's right.
One of our committee members.
You're welcome. It's an awesome thing to have and to do. My name is Wendy Carroll. I live at 2824 Torino Road, so I'm on the upper part. So, same as Norm said, somewhere, residents, neighbors, so many people use the road to commute, cut down through there, and we've already closed the Lower Wolf Hollow, just using Hoffman's Hill, and by far, the safest of all those roads was Lower Wolf Hollow. It isn't Turion Road, and it isn't the upper road. So you closed off the safer one, and okay, so the bottom of Turion Road is seasonal, which we don't have a problem with. Many of us take the Turion Road Hill Challenge in the wintertime, and with mixed results. Some people have scrapes on their cars, and Norm has to rescue a lot of us. It's all right, we like that part. So, you know, we use it. We use it a lot. And speaking of that, Hoffman's Hill in the wintertime, which is kept open, it's lacks sufficient really guardrails, and it's really steep if you've ever been along that road. It's pretty dangerous. So it's 3/10 of a mile will be closed. You're going to be creating 2 dead ends, essentially. For what? For a road that really hasn't been maintained that well. It's not plowed in the wintertime, that section anyway. So I'm not really sure how much is being saved as far as cost to the town, as the detriment that it's going to cause to the community that's up there, and all what we need as far as citizens living there. We really need the road open. And so that kind of brings me to, has this sort of been a little bit of a planned obsolescence thing? Like, well, you know, we're kind of not going to take care of the road. And, geez, look at how bad the road is. I think we're going to have to close it now. It kind of seems like that, because I know it hasn't been paved in a really long time, and it wasn't paved when there were pavers up there. So that was hard for us to really understand that. And I was just reading the executive summary of the comprehensive town plan. And we've got historic value up there. One of the main things mentioned in there, or one of the main things historically, is one of the markers that's there about what happened in that area. And then closing that would restrict the access to the scenic view that we talked about in the comprehensive town plan, as far as that area. So I would ask that you please don't close that road, because I really just don't see how that would be an advantage to the town and the taxpayers. Thank you.
I just want to make a clarification, because I get the question a lot about the Hollow Road. The county closed that road. The town did not close the road. I just want to be clear about that, because a lot of folks think the town closed it. We tried to fight to open it, but the county closed that road. So, next person is Kathy Bramwell. Kathy? Betty. All right.
I apologize, I didn't print my first name.
That's okay.
Forced to have it. Board members, Supervisor Ketzler, Betty Bramwell, 2973 Toriana Road. First, I'd like to start off by saying thank you very much for your prompt response to my letter. I was going to just read the letter, but I'll dispense with reading. I just wanted to cover a couple, well, I don't have the facts that Norm had. I just want to say, please don't close our road. We do use it. It's used daily. A lot of people use it daily. I don't know what the compelling reason is why the town feels it has to close the road. And I'm not looking for an answer right now, but I would like to know what has changed over the course of decades, 100 years, that the town feels that it has to close the road now. When we bought up there, when people built houses up there, they realized that they were getting into a seasonally maintained road, steep hill, no problem. Personally, I'm not looking for it to be repaved. Every time a road gets repaved, it's paved to state standards, whatever. You end up with a high road bed, fall off, pulls you off the side of the road. I like touring on a hill. There's no fall off. You don't fall into a ditch like you do on Hoffman Hill Road if the road's a little bit slippery. And I also want to kind of belatedly thank the Town Highway Department for trimming the weeds last year. It was a little bit of a hazard, and I sent an email, and bingo, the next day the weeds were trimmed. So thank you very much, I appreciate that.
They're responsive to you.
I feel threatening. But yeah, the issue about potholes, We don't need paving, but just fill the potholes before fall gets here, so we have a summer of driving over filled potholes. And I did go down Torriana Hill the other day and saw that the potholes were filled, so thank you very much for that too. And as Wendy said, we've already lost Wolf Hollow Road. When I commuted, I used to commute Torriana Road, and when that closed for the season, I took Wolf Hollow Road. It was a more gradual hill. It was very easy to maneuver, unlike Hoffman Hill, which was a little slipperier, has the ditches. So please don't make us lose another road. It is used. We pay our taxes, try to pay them on time. So please don't close the road, leave it for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
My name's Ed Mahowski, I live at 330 Swart Hill Road in Montgomery County. Am I allowed to speak?
Oh, sure.
Okay, all right.
We like our neighbors.
I'm 9/10 of a mile from Torriana Road, okay? I've commuted that road for 30 years, going back and forth to work, and I still use it going to business and stuff. Like Norm and everybody said, the road has been a vital part for us, not only in the neighborhood, but people from Hegman, Broad Alton, Galway. There's so many people that come down West Line Road, Torriana Road, and use those, like I said. Lower Hoffman Hill, or Wolf Hollow is closed. People use that. They use Wolf Hollow, they use Swart Hill. Several years back, Swart Hill washed out on us, and it was closed for several months. So we either had to go up north and around the Cranes Hollow. We could use Torriana Road or Wolf Hollow. You can't predict what kind of weather, what kind of storms we're going to have, but it is necessary to keep these roads open. Probably 4 hours and maybe 2 to 3 yards, blacktop, 3 guys, dump truck, patch some of the potholes. Years ago, I know they didn't pave it, but they used tar and stone. That'd be fine too. You know, but please keep it open. A lot of people use it.
Thank you.
We thought we would just sign you in. We feel the same way. That's why we're here.
You're going to cede your time to someone else. Tom, I can't read your last name.
Same
Same thing. Pete.
Well, we get to meet face to face, right?
Yes.
We've had many correspondences over the last few years, but I am Pete Mahowski, and although I am a town resident on Torriana Road for 32 years, I am also a taxpayer for the town of Glenville. At this point, I have a lot of the feelings that has already been said already, but I think the best thing to do is to ask each of you to put yourself in our place, in our situation, as if it was happening to you on your road, to the home that you live in. Many thousands of dollars was spent on resurfacing the upper part of Torriana Road in 2015, which was a joint effort, me bringing it to your attention and getting it done, because it was in horrible condition. This past winter, there have been a few sections on this newly repaved road by the snowplow, and to date, they have not been repaired. This is disheartening. For the money that was spent, this is only going to lead to the road deterioration again. What would you do if this was your road after you saw the money that was spent? What would you want? What would you do? In Glenville's 2016 published newsletter, it stated, under the 2016 paving program, we will complete the remainder of Torriana Road in West Glenville. You didn't have the money to do everything in 15, it was going to be done the next year. What happened that it wasn't done? What would you do if this happened to your road? What would you want done? Now the hill is proposed or contemplated to be permanently closed. Why? Again, would you want your road to be closed? Because potholes aren't filled and the road gets deteriorated? This road was paved many, many years ago. And as Norm said, and I'm saying, it was a dirt road. And today, with better techniques and equipment, why can't it at least just be patched and kept open? Steeper hills are paved all over. Even Pikes Peak is paved to the top. What would each of you want if this was happening to you, each and every one of you, on your road, and you traveled it daily for over 32 years? Thank you for your attention to this matter, and it is used by many people, even though we are way out in the borderline. It's one of the highest areas in Glenville. Don't cut it off from the world. Thank you.
Pete. The next group has already spoken and has left. It's about the tobacco retailer in town, Kara, Kelly, Kiera, and Jamie. Anyone left for that group? I think you guys, they already spoken, they left. And so that brings us, that's the names. Yeah. And that brings us to Mr. Koch, is it? Ram? Pam? I can't read the first name. Koch?
Good evening, I'm Ray Koch, 2146 Torreuna Road. We bought up there 20 some odd years ago because Torreuna Road was a wreck and we could ride our horses safely alongside the road. Then along came the new speedway that we've got there that goes from ditch to ditch where you can't do anything on the side of the road. So we put up with that and bought inline skates. But you'll find that going up the lower part of Torreuna Road, there's a lot of bicyclists, hikers, people just going for a nature walk. One thing surprised me a couple times when the street sweeper came through Torreuna Hill. I think we'd be okay letting them not sweep the street. It climbed that hill and nicely swept the granules away. So, and I would like to ask this town board if they could help us with dealing with the county on reopening Wolf Hollow Road. They closed it. Right now, the adjoiners could probably take that road over and kick everybody out. There's a lot of college people that study that fall, but we can't go there. It's private land once they abandon it. So, and that, as everybody's been testifying, that's the way to get out of there in the winter, is that lower road. You can get so stuck and so crashed on Hoffman Hill Road, it's crazy. I'd probably rather go down Torreuna Road. So I would fight for keeping that road open. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ryan, you're next on the list, but I think you already spoke.
I think I already said it.
You okay, you wanna?
I have one more rhetorical question.
Oh, okay.
Can I get up there?
Please.
Again, Greg Shea on 14 Lee Road. In last question that I didn't ask before, I think I left my papers on the desk, on the chair. It's mentioned in the initiatives, the allow multi-family development in the town center and select segments of Freeman's Bridge Road. Rhetorical question. Is there any kind of exclusive implication in that initiative?
I'm going to tease you. Wait till the board members do their reports or their new business. I think Councilman Martin might want to answer that question.
Okay.
All right, and I'll get to that.
Thank you very much.
And we may have a question for you just to define what you mean by that, but we'll get to that. The next person. Oh, Tom. Tom, would you like to speak? Can I just do one thing, Tom? Sure. Do you mind if I just go through who's signed up first, and then we'll we only have two more folks signed up. Peter Whipper.
Thank you. My name is Peter Looker. I live at 1965 Amsterdam Road in the Westwood neighborhood. I'm here again because it's been over 3 years now, and full domination trucking is still in violation of the spirit and the law of the town law. specifically the part that says glare to 7065, glare whether direct or reflected shall be confined to the property in which it's generated. The intent is that nearby properties or neighborhoods are not significantly impacted as a result either through environmental impacts, visual effects, or through reduction of property values. Additionally, on-street loading, lighting used to illuminate on-street loading shall be confined, figured in a manner so as not to reflect upon adjoining properties or streets. Sources shall be shielded and projected downward. Off-street parking, all lights associated with parking areas will be directed into the parking area and away from adjacent properties and public right-of-way. We can still read in our bedroom 300 feet back from the road without a light on. Our trees are still lit up 60 feet in the air. And to me, I'm just the son of an engineer, but it seems like they are not aimed down and shielded. And it seems like after 3 years, just because they're a corporate developer, they shouldn't be exempt from the intent and the purpose and the law itself. And I wonder if these people in Outlaw are going to go through the same thing with a big development that ignores what the law says it shall do. So I'm still asking that that law be enforced 3 years later, and my neighbors would still like it enforced as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person, I think, spoke, Mike McHale. Are you still interested in speaking?
I'm going to speak again.
You can
Primarily because I don't know when to shut up. So, again, Mike McHale, 10 Hill Street, Elton Plaza, New York. I just would like to reiterate some of the comments that were made in regard to the 100-year floodplain, our concerns about development within the 100-year floodplain, and the conversion of land conservation to some other, multi-family residential land use down by the river. There's a reason that land was zoned land conservation. It's not just to pay lower taxes, it's because it's in the 100-year floodplain. So I think it's important that we're careful about converting land conservation land, which is hard fought to get in the first place, into something else, especially high-density multifamily developments. And of course, our concerns, I'll keep this, my concerns about the difference in the language in the comprehensive plan and the map relates directly to the development that's being proposed in that area. I just want to reiterate that I do not think that you can, the two bullet points are mutually exclusive. I don't think that you can do a high-density multifamily development down in the marina area, the industrial park area, and still preserve the character of L Plaza, regardless of where you draw the boundary for L Plaza. So that's all. Thank you.
Well, we've clapped a long time there. Anyone else wish to be heard at privilege of the floor?
Maurice Watson, 5 Mohawk Avenue, Outlaws, New York. A little levity there because, again, you've heard from the Outlaws residents. I thank the candidate for coming up and making his thoughts known. My concern with this process is the politicizing of this project. And what I mean by that is, I mean this in all sincerity, I understand that there's an election coming up, and my concern through this process, as I've been able to talk to most people, is people are starting to dig their heels in. Because some people are using it to get this project hopefully taken away. And on the other side, people just don't like being directed, or you've spent a lot of time in the comprehensive plan. You guys have a lot of time in that comprehensive plan. Last thing you want to hear is something that you might need to change, or that something doesn't fit. And I think that's been the tone we've been saying since day one, is that some of this stuff does not fit. This project is density. This project is about whatever. But the bottom line is that it does not fit. So that means that you have to bring in the marina, which I thought was part of Outlaws anyway. If that's part of it, and that means it fits into the project, and the project now doesn't match the hamlet, and you have to now move that project around so where there are no multi-family units and stuff like that. And that's the impression I'm getting if that happens. Then so be it, I guess. Because on November 8th, we'll see what happens, okay? But I still gotta live there. And I still have to live with those people over there. And to have this thing being a juggling thing makes me sick to my stomach. And I don't know if anyone else feels the same way as I do. But I sat back there, I wasn't even gonna speak tonight. And that's pretty hard for me, because I have a lot of things to say. But I love living in Outlaws. I appreciate the work the town board has done for us. But on this project, and I've said it before, I'm vehemently against it. It does not fit. There are things that are in that declaration that went to the brownfield, that people said that they were not going to, they just wanted to get rid of the property. Well, that wasn't true. That was not true. There was a percentage of money that's going to the people who own that property who said they wanted to get rid of it. And I'm one of the guys that stood up in the back and said, you know what? They're great guys, they're a great family, I take them on their word. And that's not the case. So walks like a duck, talks like a duck. This is wrong, this project. And I think everybody in this room, the signs on the street, whether they're silly or not, it is wrong. This project is wrong. Please take a look at it when you finally go through your comprehensive plan. But again, the privilege of the floor means we can talk about just about anything. I appreciate your time. And again, drive through, check the signs, go take a look around. This does not fit.
I'm Jessica Evans. I live at 31 Mohawk Avenue in Outlaws. I feel like I came to a wedding. It's the West Glenville side and the Outlaws side. And there's one thing that we all have in common. We love where we live, and we want all of you to respect the places where we live, the character of the places where we live, and how serious we are about fighting this development because it's wrong. So, pardon me, I don't have paper, I have my cell phone. The second bullet point that Mike referred to, clean up, in the town comprehensive plan, clean up and pursue adaptive reuse of the Mohawk Industrial Park property and surrounding riverfront lands to the southeast of the hamlet of Outlaws. When you put language like that, which seems to suggest that Outlaws stops at the intersection of Mohawk and Maritime, you have a problem of losing our trust.
Yes.
And it's not southeast, it's southwest.
Sir, please.
If you want us to trust you to be looking out for our interests as taxpayers in the town of Glenville, that language needs to be changed. The marina address, Outlaws, New York 12008. Maritime Center, Outlaws, New York 12008. The project, the Prime Mohawk project address is 45 Mohawk Avenue, Outlaws, New York 12008.
As I say, just a reminder before we go further, please hold on until we are able to respond to that at the appropriate, I know people are leaving, but if you want to hear any response to that, you might want to wait for Councilman Martin's comments. Okay?
I'm Sue Breslin. I live at 29 Mohawk Avenue in Outlaws. And I wanted again to thank you for the work on the comprehensive plan. I wanted to read from it because I want to trust you to do what you've said in this plan. It says on page 38, a comprehensive plan could set a direction and voice residents' concern, ensure compliance with zoning requirements regarding applications for zoning map amendments, give weight and strong consideration to input from neighboring residents, especially those who would be most impacted. The wording you've put into this is wonderful. Again, we're hoping we can trust you to do this. On page 40, you talk about 40 miles of riverfront. 14 miles of riverfront within the town. On page 42, it says, over 80% of the land that fronts the 14-mile length of the Mohawk River in Glenville falls within the 100-year floodplain. Floodplains have consequently limited development along the Mohawk River to isolated pockets. Inversely, the regulatory difficulty, engineering challenges, and costs associated with developing in the floodplain have kept much of the riverfront in Glenville green, adding to the aesthetic character of the town and helping protect water quality from the impact of development. But these are things that you've noted, you've put it in the plan, and we just want you to continue to hold those thoughts as we move forward. There is one more, the priority initiatives and next steps. Land conservation. Evaluate and amend the town zoning map to ensure that the land conservation zoning category has been properly and consistently applied to New York State freshwater wetlands, 100-year flood plans, and steep slopes. That's what we're asking you to do, is consistently apply and ensure that this property will be maintained. As you've been told before, we in Alplos are not opposed to development. We are opposed to developing in the floodplain and changing the character, the aesthetic value of our area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Capolis, 67 Maple Avenue, current highway superintendent. I would like to address the Terry Road issue. I understand your concerns completely. I get where you guys are coming from.
Tom, just address the board.
I get where the residents are coming from. And I do understand. And if that road, we've been pushed pretty hard to repave that road on that hill. And in my opinion, that's a seasonal road. If we repave that road, it'll become a permanently open road. That's what we'll push for next. I am not opposed to leaving out a seasonal road with repair. But if we move forward and do a reclamation of that road, the next step would be to keep that road open. And in the wintertime, that road is not safe with new pavement, old pavement, whatever pavement may be on it. I appreciate that. And I'm just saying that next step would probably take place from someone that would want that done. So I am not opposed to the repairs that need to be made on the road, but I am opposed to the reclamation of it. Just want to make that known.
When does the road close in the winter? What dates? What date do you close it in the winter?
15th, April 1st. It's going to close the 15th.
October 15th.
November.
November 15th.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard or come to the floor? Yes.
Just want to make one more quick statement about the seasonal closing of the road. Please keep it the way it has been, seasonally closed, no barricades, unlike Wolf Hollow Road. So in case we have a snowless winter, we still get to use our road. No maintenance is fine, we're used to that, but please don't close the road, don't barricade the road. And I respectfully request that if this issue appears in tonight's new business, that the board table any decision until there can be more discussion about it and more informing of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here. I get what Tom is saying, that they pave it, and then the next push would be to have it open year-round. If that happens to ever be the case and I'm still here, I'll be standing right here vehemently opposing that hill being open all winter long. Because the problem being is I'm the last house that people see. When they get stuck, they come knocking on my door. So I'll be here saying no.
So are we.
Members of the floor. Yes.
My name's Sandy Bassino, and I live 328 Butterfield Avenue in Alplos. And this is very hard for me because I don't like to speak in front of people, but I have a concern with this development in regards to our volunteer fire department. I'm very concerned how our volunteer fire department is going to handle doubling our population at the minimum. And how, has the town considered how many volunteers would have to be assessed to properly give this significant increase, proper public and health coverage through our volunteer fire department? If there are a lot of a lot of apartments, I don't think you're going to have a lot of those people becoming volunteer firemen. That's just kind of a history factor with communities that just have mostly apartments, not residents. And I'm just very concerned that the board hasn't taken this into effect with making their decision, and I hope that they do. And my second comment would be, I'm very concerned with the light pollution, light pollution that this whole complex is going to create. The town of Glendale has worked hard as far as having things look beautiful. I think our riverfront is one of our highest assets. Building an apartment complex of that magnitude is not going to make the river more beautiful. It's just going to make us look like any other big city that's just developed all the riverfront, and there's nothing beautiful to look at or enjoy. And also our migratory birds and our eagle population, which we've worked so hard to bring back. And right now at the marina, I go down there and I watch those eagles and the osprey all the time. And I'm really concerned with this light pollution, which is going to be obviously at night. It's going to affect a lot of things environmentally.
Thank you, Sandy. Going once, going twice, seeing none, the floor is now closed. The supervisor's comments to the board. I want to thank everyone for their comments here tonight. These are very good comments for the board to hear. These are very important issues, and I know that Councilman Martin's interested in speaking on some of these issues later under new business. But you know, what we did tonight was take more comments after 3 years and 14 public meetings. We'll continue to incorporate those. I think we'll probably have an item at the work session on this next week before taking up the plan on the, what's the date, 2 days from now? Next board meeting, the 18th?
Yes.
Well, we'll probably end up taking it up on the 18th. So that kind of lays out the schedule for everybody, but it'll probably be a discussion, and for the West Glendale folks, Tornado Road will probably be a discussion on that work session as well, where we'll have more information from Tom Lander, who's currently doing a traffic study on the road, and we'll be able to discuss that and have resolution on the 18th, or determine if there's more study that's required. So I encourage you, we'll be spending the next couple of Wednesdays together and working this all out to try to please everybody's interests and do the best we can to find common ground. With that, I want to just talk about a few things. One of the most important things we are doing now this time of year is the budget. And I guess it's incumbent on me by state law to announce that the town clerk has submitted the tentative budget to the town board. And you all have the tentative budget. I want to just review that. And I'm sorry, there's some chatter down there, Tom. Hey, can you guys, it's kind of distracting. Can you not talk when we're talking? I appreciate that. Thank you. You do have the budget, and as you saw, the budget, the proposed tentative budget, the increase is at 1.68, which is well below the tax cap. And that means that the average home townhouse inside the town of Glenville will be impacted at about $7 per year for all the town levies, and a typical village house would be about $3 per year. So we think that's fairly reasonable for what we're facing in our budget, particularly the increase in health insurance, as we talked about. Again, is at about a 9% rate we're expecting. So when you're trying to mitigate against the increase in health insurance year after year after year, we have to do some sort of levy increase, and we've kept it very minimal in the tentative. One of the things that we're very proud of with this budget is we again reduced the use of the fund balance. We talk about this all the time at the budget forums. We inherited, when we became first elected into these positions, we inherited a fund balance allocation of almost $1.4 million. That's taking $1.4 million out of your savings account and putting it towards operations into a $17 million budget. You can't do that very long without creating major fiscal strains on your budget. Meaning that one day, like if you were to pay your mortgage out of your savings account, one day that's going to dry up. You're going to have to find it somewhere else. And the only place we can find that, obviously, and we'll talk a little bit about that too, the revenue streams, is in the levy. And so we were able to reduce again this year, in 2018's budget, utilizing a total of $360,000 in fund balance, meaning that with another reduction of $105,000 over 2017. That's a significant reduction of the fund balance use in our time here in the 8 years we've worked on this, and that's a big accomplishment. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what the comptroller and Moody's says about that. Also, one of the biggest things when we came in 8 years ago, we inherited a debt load that was at over $23 million. This budget will bring our debt down to $14.9 million. And we'll be reducing another net debt reduction of $1 million. And that, again, has helped our operating budget tremendously because we've cut our debt so much over the years, and that's been a huge accomplishment of this town board. But we've done that when we've made investments in our capital and our equipment. We recently begun the replacement of our water meters across the town into new automatic read meters, which will save both money and time for residents and staff. And this is a tremendous efficiency project that we're taking on. The town utilized $100,000 from the capital reserve fund for that, and then bonded another another $100,000. No, that's not right. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong. The meters, we bonded how much? $950, that's right.
And used about $950.
Yeah. So we were able to take some from the capital reserve to mitigate the need to borrow, but with the efficiencies we expect with the automatic read meters, we're going to also see some operational savings into the budget. We also, in this budget, took some money from the capital reserve fund to invest in the historic Yates Mansion, which we purchased, as you know, earlier this year. And we, working with Tom Coppola, have replaced aging and neglected DPW equipment that we inherited. And our DPW fleet is now almost fully up to date, which is much better able to handle the needs of the town. So we've made a tremendous amount of investment in equipment and in our capital needs in the town. But we've also made investments in our parks, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of that this budget deals with. This budget deals with, of course, creating and opening and running Anderson Dog Park, which has been widely popular. Improvement to the roads into Indian Meadows, which has long been asked for, and opening the second entrance at Melwood, which helps us with popular events like Oktoberfest. All of these investments we're able to make in this budget. Again, thinking about that, for just $7 additional to each home across the town, I think is something to be proud of. We also made investments further in our police department. This budget will help give the police department the tools they need, and we will be again funding with cash, not borrowing, 2 new police vehicles, new LiDAR and radar devices, new roadway speed messaging boards, and additional tactical shields for our officers. So we'll be making upgrades in our police department with this budget. We'll also continue our upgrades in the DPW and parks equipment. The 2018 budget will fund 2 new commercial mowers for town parks. We know our Councilman Hell's doing so much work in the parks. We need more equipment to keep up with all that we're doing. We also are investing in 2 additional lifts for the highway garage, a catch basin vacuum trailer, a new street sweeper to improve roadside drainage, a new leaf vacuum trailer to improve that program, and 2 new pickup trucks. Significant amount of investments into our departments on behalf of our residents, all again on 1.68, while reducing our debt, while reducing the allocation of the fund balance. I gotta say, I think this is a tremendously solid budget, and the work that you guys have done on this, I'm extremely proud. But it brings us to, one of the biggest issues that we're facing here, and that's the unfair share of the county's hoarding of the sales tax in this town. And we've been working on this issue, and that's putting further strain on our budget. And just to review, because I know we've all been talking about it, for every new sales tax dollar that comes into this county, the county of Schenectady hoards 75 cents of that dollar. The city of Schenectady takes another 13 cents. Metroplex takes almost another 9 cents. And when you're all said and done, the wonderful towns of Glenville, Rotterdam, and Niskayuna are left with less than a penny each of every new dollar, sales tax dollar, comes in this town. That is not a sustainable situation for the towns. Now, this is a serious matter, and we have reached out continually to our D3, our District 3 legislators, and we've asked them to join us in a meeting to talk about this. To this day, with 3 requests, 3 different date requests, I still cannot get them to agree to a meeting. And I'm telling you, that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable for someone who is supposed to be representing this community, these people in this room, to refuse to sit down at the meeting and talk about an issue that affects these people more than anything else in this budget is unacceptable. Now, I heard from 2 residents and I heard from a legislator that the majority at the county has no interest and no intention in meeting with this board unless it's in private, number 1, and number 2, after the election. Now, that is completely unacceptable. And I'm telling you right now, we're going to pick a date, we're going to have an open forum, and if they show up, we'll talk to them, and if they don't show up, we'll talk to each other. But we're going to make sure this issue is front and center, because that is completely unacceptable. On that, still on the budget, we just had our fiscal stress announced for the 2016 fiscal year. We came out very, very well. We had one little ding, and this is just a little strange thing in the reporting. We had a little bit of a stress. I mean, we're nowhere near any issues whatsoever. But we got a 1.7% fiscal score. The lower the better, out of 100. 1.7 out of 100. Schenectady County got 22%. That puts it in. They're fiscally stressed 22%. We're at 1.7. But the only mark we got was because our debt service as a percent of our overall expenses are too high. But guess what? We're paying down our debt at a much greater level, and in fact paid down $10 million. So it looks like there's a tremendous amount of debt when they look at it. But the fact of the matter is we're paying down our debt, and that's why. So it's unfortunate we'd be at 0, but we're not. The audited financials came in as well. We ended 2016 with a surplus in all of our funds, so we did well managing our expenses throughout the year. And one of the great things I want to just reiterate in 2016 is we adopted a fund balance policy. For the first time in our history, the town has a fund balance policy where we moved $3 million into dedicated funds, capital reserve fund, debt reserve fund, and retirement reserve fund, putting us on a much more solid ground going forward to make investments into the town. So I'm very, very proud of that. I want to announce that Metroplex, I've been told the check is in the mail. Their $90,000 for the town center beautification upgrades is in the mail, so we'll be getting paid for Metroplex. $90,000 is as much as it is. And I want to, again, we've had a tremendous week. I know Councilman Hennel came out to the senior center ceremony for the expansion we're doing there, where we got a grant from Senator Tedisco to pay for the expansion of the senior center, which is tremendous. But what people don't realize is we have gotten over $2 million in grant money from the state of New York into this town in the last 3 months. That is a tremendous amount of investment and a lot of hard work on this board's part of getting that done. The senior center got $200,000 for their expansion. We got, and why we delayed, thank you Tom, why we delayed the Glen Ridge walking trail to Woodhaven was because we were going for state money and we got our $220,000 for that. That's paid for. Yates Mansion got $50,000 from Senator Tedisco and $100,000 from Assemblymember Mary Beth Walsh, which gives us a great footing to start the restoration there. And the big one, which we're going to be talking about soon, is Senator Tedisco secured a $1.5 million grant to upgrade our police department and invest in our public safety in this town. And that's a tremendous amount of investment into this town. And I can't tell you how excited I am about that. And what a great job I think you all did in helping work with the senator on that. So you should be proud of that. I mentioned the Glen Ridge sidewalk. Dutch Meadow sidewalk is currently under construction. If you go by, you'll see a retaining wall built, and the sidewalk is starting to be built. So we're expanding the sidewalks as we said we would in the town of Glenville. And the joint committee between the village and the town actually met. I never thought that would happen. Councilman Hemmel was there, and we have a meeting tomorrow night. And so we're making progress there and talking about some of the work that the town and the village can do together and cooperate. So there's a lot there. That's all I had. I tried to stay in 5 minutes. It didn't work, so I apologize and move on with the rest of the meeting. Okay, so we move back to the agenda. We'll take up item number 8, a resolution issuing a negative declaration for the comprehensive plan. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Have a second.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, just for the information of everyone here, particularly those who were here for the comprehensive plan public hearing earlier, this is the one of the steps in the procedure to adopt the plan. That is undertaking the environmental assessment of its adoption by statute. This action is a type 1 action, and by this resolution, we are coming to a declaration of a negative declaration, meaning no environmental impact from its adoption. This is not the adoption. There is still opportunity, and based on comments tonight, I would imagine some further revision to the document potentially. So this is just yet the next step before adoption. We've had our 2 public hearings. One was by the Comprehensive Plan Committee itself. We have their recommendation. We have recommendations from the Environmental and Conservation Committee. And so with this public hearing opened and closed tonight and the adoption of this resolution, we're free to take up the document for the actual decision of adoption, hopefully at our next regular meeting.
Maybe, Councilman Marr, this is a good point, maybe talk about some of the issues that came up tonight since we're going to adopt the...
I've talked to many of the people here directly who spoke tonight in the many meetings we've had during the comprehensive plan, and also informally about the proposed project down there. I spoke to Bud on the phone today, and I just want to point out, I know there's been some facts selected, about the differentiation between Hamlet area and where the delineation should be and all that kind of thing. But I would also caution that the comprehensive plan reads the way it does in the spirit of protection for the hamlet. Because in land use planning, you cannot look at more two opposite types of land use than residential and industrial. And that's what we have present there currently today. The current existing land use on the ground there is not very pleasant. It's contaminated. And so the interest in separating the two and delineating that was actually to protect the hamlet. Because the thinking widely accepted is, you know, you don't want to be associated with a hazardous waste site, especially as a dense, highly characteristic hamlet area. The other thing, even on the map that's provided tonight, one of the other driving considerations of delineating plan areas and areas with characteristics or unique sets of characteristics is look at the parcel sizes here on this map. They're very small, they're very dense, they're almost indicative of a village-like setting, certainly a hamlet. That's what drove the delineation of this line. It was out of protection and respect for the hamlet and not some devious measure to sneak in a big project. And I think all of you who talked to me about this know me, and I'm sincere in my interest in this matter and in planning. I take this very seriously. So what was suggested here is protection of the hamlet and recognizing it for its what makes it great and what makes it special. And when we start to expand to the south into this property where there's a commercial marina, and commercial marinas are not nice places. It's fanciful, accounting of marinas. They have tractors, heavy duty equipment. There's oil spills. There's gas spills. There's potential impact to the water body from a marina in that interaction. Again, so this was an attempt to recognize the differences in the land use pattern there and delineate out a section that is special. So I just want that to be clear. And that's the driving motivation behind the line and where it sits. And I don't know about this project. There's a lot of, I've said to you, everybody I talked to, we're at the very beginning of this process. I'm a process person, and I trust in the process. Bud made reference to some information that came out about potential involvement of the landowner in the project as an investor. That's what comes out when we go through the process. That information is allowed to come out. We develop truth and facts, and that's a good thing. And that's what we're attempting to do. We have just posdec this. We haven't even adopted the scoping document today. I called the third-party consultant today. They were out of the office. I want to take your very fine written letter that makes a lot of great points, and I want that third-party consultant that we've hired to protect the interests of the town and the residents to review your letter and make sure our scoping document is inclusive of your comments. And then we'll have a scoping document. And then we'll go down the environmental impact statement. And I should point out, it's the first time, Chris, you've been with the town a long time. When's the last time you remember that the town board posdec a project?
It's never happened.
And sat here individually. Each one of us went through that assessment form, divided the questions, and personally and individually considered every question and every criteria for the question. I've never seen that happen in this town. I don't see it happen in a lot of communities, especially where the elected body is the lead agent. This is being taken very seriously, as it should, and I agree 100% with Bud that this should not be politicized, and nobody at this side of the table anyhow is going to try and cheaply get some votes in November.
It's easy to tell you we don't want it. It's easy to tell you we're going to reject it. Then you'll all be happy. But we have to go through the process. And that's what Councilman Martin is talking about. We have to get the facts, and we have to respect that process and go through the process. And I think, Sandy, a lot of the questions you brought up are things that are going to be answered in the study that we're requiring. We agree with you. We need answers to those questions, but you have to go through the process to get them. And that's what we're working on right now.
And you're all gonna review that document, you're all gonna read it, and you're gonna have your opportunity to comment, and those comments will have to be addressed and answered. If there are shortcomings in the analysis, if the analysis is superficial or not complete, that will be exposed and addressed. So, I just wanted to say that about the comprehensive plan. A lot of fine people put a lot of hours into this, many, many hours over the course of years. And a few of those people are in this room. And I don't want to see this process diminished or politicized in light of that fine effort. And that's what I wanted to say.
And if I can just add to that, 14 public meetings across this town, 2 of which I remember specifically in Applause. Specifically, as respect to Applause, which would be considered East Glenville, and we didn't just do it in East Glenville. We also did it in Applause. There was no politicizing of it. I didn't see anybody come out from any political parties during the entire process of going through this 3 years, 14 public meetings. At the end, at the very 12th hour, because we're trying to get this done in a timely manner for everybody, and politicize it is ridiculous. And on that, I just want to point out, I read a letter to the editor. We're trying to find the person so that we can correct the wrong information. I called Ray Gillen the other day when I read from the letter to the editor, there's some pilot deal on this project. And I said to Ray, you tell me there's a pilot deal on this project. He said there's absolutely no pilot deal. It's complete fiction on this project. That's what Ray Gillen told me to my face through the phone. So,
Sort of to your face.
So, I don't know where that came from, but it does not help. It does not help when there's wrong information out there. It does not help you. It does not help us in the process. We have to make sure we keep factual information. No, this is not a back.
I think I know where that came from.
Okay, we'll talk later. And I just want to correct that publicly.
So I was gonna say that at new business, so that takes that off the, you won't miss anything in new business other than I'm going to have another thing to say about this darn sales tax.
That'd be worth waiting. Anyone else on this matter? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Catalano?
Yes.
Councilman Hennel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Worzbowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Capson?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 9, authorizing the supervisor to execute the documentation for a J-Scope grant. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is in connection with yet another Justice Court Assistance Program grant application that has been put together by our court clerks for the town court. This request would be for an amount of $30,000 for improvements and financing projects relative to the town court. I would like to point out and thank the town court clerks, Joelle and Gretchen, for all of their work on this particular application and the applications that they've been successful with. I believe every application since I've been on the board, which is 8 years now, has been successful. They're responsible for many of the improvements that have been made to the courtroom here and the meeting room here. And if it were not for those funds, I don't know that it would look half as great as it does. So that's what this resolution would be, allow you to execute the documentation for the application for that grant.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I know one of the things we're trying to put into that grant is new lighting outside our door. I just think that's funny. But anyway, see it. Questions or comments? Please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Catalano?
Yes.
Councilman Hennel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Worzbowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Capson?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 10, scheduling a public hearing on 1018 for considering any objections to the assessment rolls for Water District 11. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, as you stated, this resolution is set as a public hearing for October 18th at 7 p.m. here in this building for any objections to the for Water District number 11, please census numbers and please.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Catalano?
Yes.
Councilman Hennel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Just for the point of speed, I'll read through the next four. They're all set in the public hearing regarding, for the 18th, regarding to consider objections for assessment roll for sewer district 9 through 7. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Move a second, any discussion?
So we can move these as a group?
Well, I'm just going to go through them quickly.
Okay.
Seeing nothing, please report the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Pittavani?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Resolution 12, to set the public hearing on the 18th to consider any objections to assessment roll for sewer district 6. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Pittavani?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Resolution 13, schedule a public hearing on October 18th to consider any objections to assessment roll for all Plaza Sewer District Number 1. Do I have a motion?
So
Do I
moved.
have a second?
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Pittavani?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Resolution 14, schedule a public hearing on October 18th to consider objections for the assessment roll for sewer district number 2. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Moved in second, any objections or any comments? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Pittavani?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Resolution 15, approving the town of Glenville independently audited financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2016. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second, and as I just said, this is just approving the audited financial statements, which we went over a little bit at the supervisor's comments. So, any questions or comments? Seeing none.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Pittavani?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Now, this resolution should take some time, because this is a good one. Resolution 16, authorizing the supervisor to enter into an easement agreement with McKeel Christian School for the use of the McKeel property. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion?
Absolutely. I would like to thank the supervisor and Deputy Supervisor McFarland for their hard work on this. This is a resolution that's basically allowing the supervisor to reach into agreement about an easement with the McKeel Christian Academy. And this is something we've been working a long time on. We've got some great trails in Indian Meadows Park that connect over to the YMCA. And now we've got the Anderson parcel that was donated by Mr. Anderson, where this piece is a key piece which will then allow a trail to go literally from Van Buren Road to the YMCA. So kids can literally go on a trail safely, not on roads, through the trail over. So I'm thrilled this is happening. I'm thrilled that the Rotary and other groups are going to help build this trail at no cost to the town. Again, this is a resolution for the supervisor to be able to go ahead and execute that easement agreement with the McKeel Christian Academy.
So ultimately, this is another missing link in a trail system that we've been long seeking, that will go from the Woodlawn neighborhood, Woodhaven, I always say that, Woodhaven, past this town hall, through town center, and down to the dog park and into Indian Meadows.
Yes.
And we're very close.
So we've connected our parks, our business corridors, and our residential neighborhoods.
And then if we can just connect Alplus to Woodhaven, then Alplus can
Or get the map. Congratulations, and it's rumored that Councilman Hennel is going to be working the trail with a chainsaw.
Absolutely.
Good place to stay away from.
Yeah.
Please join us.
So, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please vote roll.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Pittavani?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution 17, reappointing Dorothy Scott to the bar. Do I have a motion?
So
Do I have a
moved.
second?
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion?
This is an appointment to the Board of Assessment for Dorothy Hickok Stump from 1537 Washoe Road. And it is a term for 5 years.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Pittavani?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution 18, approving the town board minutes for August 16th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Pittavani?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
I need to abstain because I was absent at that meeting. I was on vacation. Yeah.
I missed you.
I'm acting for that meeting, going on.
Supervisor Hudson?
Yes, I was here. Resolution passes. Next resolution is the add-on 1, authorizing the Commissioner of Public Works to enter into an agreement with County Waste regarding the annual program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, yet another program that's near and dear to your heart, the 2018 bulk waste pickup program. This resolution, should it be passed, would award a contract to County Waste and Recycling Services at the low bid price of $31,950, which this expense is included in the 2018 town budget.
Thank you. And you guys will have the first knowledge of this. It looks like we're securing the last week of April and the first week of May for the 2-week program. So we're trying to stay away from all the May and June things like prom and graduations and everything. So God willing, the weather hold is good the last week of April, it should start then in 2018. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Tattelbaum?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. The last resolution, add-on number 2, is resolution authorizing the agreement for tax cert with Trustco Bank. Do I have a motion?
So
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. I think I'll call on the town attorney to give us a brief overview.
This resolution actually involves the 2 properties that Trustco has in the town, the branch that's located on Mohawk Avenue in the village of Scotia. They have filed this going back to the 2013 tax roll, which will apply to the 2014 taxes, and each year after that. And with respect to the office building and branch that they have on Cernowski Drive, 1 to 3 Cernowski Drive, that they have filed in 2016, and then again this year, 2017. They certainly believe that the Mohawk Avenue property was assessed higher than market value. The compromise that we reached is that we will make an adjustment only prospectively so that there will be no refunds for any years before 2017. It's particularly, the village has a very tight budget, and we've met with the mayor on this during the course of these negotiations to make sure that there was as little impact on the village as possible as a result of resolving this tax cert proceeding. So neither the school district or the village and the town, although our portion of the tax is so small that it's not as much of an impact on the town, but they'll not have to be concerned with the prospect of any refunds going back those number of years that this covers. And then the same situation with respect to the Cernowski Drive property, except it's only one prior year. There was an adjustment of about 6% on their assessed valuation, but there would be no refund for any prior years.
Well, that sounds like a very favorable agreement.
Well, when we look at what the initial demand was compared to the values that we agreed upon, their initial demands were that the property was worth about a third of what it was assessed at, and we're making very minor adjustments.
Well, congratulations and thank you for all your hard work on that. It went on a while. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Tattelbaum?
Yes.
Councilman Hamel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. We're on to new business, and then from new business, we'll go into executive session. As I say, we don't anticipate any further public business after that, so you're free to stay, but we will not be conducting public business. Start on the left, Councilman Adam.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, two things. First of all, on Tuesday, when we did accept the grant from Senator Tedisco for the senior center, we did an awful lot to thank the people that worked hard on the plans and the drawings and to secure the grant. But I think the other group that we really want to thank is the seniors themselves, because if the seniors didn't go to the senior center and use the senior center as much as they do, we wouldn't have needed the grant. So, big shout out to them and to the staff there. The other thing is, again, it's just very refreshing to see such a large group of people here. So oftentimes we have these meetings and it's a quiet room. You know, this is our comprehensive plan, and it's important for you guys to come. And you know, as the next piece that's going to happen is that we'll move over and it'll go through and do the zoning review. And again, I served 8 years on the zoning board of appeals, and we hear people. And when you hear changes, if you hear revisions to this, if you're satisfied with them, go ahead and stay home. If you're not satisfied, please come back and speak up again, because we really do want to hear what the residents say. So again, thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you. Councilman West. Councilman Martin.
Okay, before you go, I just want to say, the county budget hearing is next week, October 10th at 7 o'clock in the county office building. I'm going to be there. I really hope you come, because we're getting shafted with this sales tax revenue business, and we need to have the grassroots taxpayers there. I heard reference made, you know, about being taxpayers. Well, I'll tell you what, you are paying the taxes, and we can lower those taxes if we get a fair share of the sales tax revenue that's generated in this town and that we have to bear the brunt of with our direct impacts and so on and so forth. So I encourage you all to come to that budget hearing and be heard. And for example, just to add some stats to this, I'll give you another one because I got a bunch of them, and I'm going to research this budget out too. And I'm going online, I'm downloading the budget, and I'm going to have a lot of facts to share. And it's online, I encourage you to go get it, the 2018 tentative county budget. It is full of wonderful numbers. Now, I'll share just one little factoid with you. Mr. Jasinski said that the demographics and the statistics between Schenectady County and Saratoga County are different. Well, that is actually true. You want to know what? Saratoga County's got 80,000 more people than Schenectady County. You want to know how many people the Saratoga County employs? Approximately 1,000. Now, bear in mind, we have 80,000 less people. You want to know how many people that Schenectady County employs? Nearly 1,400. So when you hear that you're going to get a 1% tax cut in lieu of $2.5 million of casino revenue? Really? And I'll call out one other little number for you. It's very easy to find. It's in the early pages of the Schenectady County budget. Look at the appropriations line item and look how that's increased over the years. When you start seeing that go down, then you're going to have a bona fide, justified tax reduction. But until you see those appropriations start to reduce, as they should, that tax cut is a smoke and mirrors nonsense. And the other thing, look at the appropriations in very detail. Look at how they go up in non-election years and look how they go up in election years. It's very interesting, the pattern that starts to develop. Look at that. And that's all I gotta say. I hope I see you next Tuesday.
Thank you. Councilman Pilavani, you gotta follow that.
I gave my time to Councilman Martin.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?